Greetings, lovely people, and welcome to a bit of a different video. This is going to be a little bit more upbeat than my usual shtick of complaining about politics, but we recently in the UK had the coronation of King Charles III, and it was as stupid as I think everyone kind of expected it to be. So, obviously, I could go on for a little while talking about all the random relics that we had, like the Stone of Destiny and the Swords of State, Mercy, Spiritual Justice, and Temporal Justice, whatever that means. I'm not going to, though. I'm going to focus on the slightly more serious side of the stupidity, mostly because it's kind of what interests me more personally. It's really funny to, point and laugh at the fact that King Charles has sausage fingers and giant ears and all the other nonsense, and I do have one little bit of nonsense that I'll save right to the end of the video, but I wanted to talk about some, as I say, of the more serious things that happened relating to the coronation. So, yeah, if you were here for, like, an upbeat video, it's going to be upbeat because I'm going to be laughing a lot at how stupid everything is, but also, these are serious topics I'll be covering, so, take your sweet with your savoury sort of thing. I'm not going to be completely positive in this video. But with all that preamble out of the way, let's just get into what I want to talk about. So, there are a bunch of major issues with events like the coronation just happening in general, and one of the biggest things that kind of annoyed me when I first saw it is that the National Lottery, which, if you don't know, the National Lottery, as well as being a lottery, is also a charitable organisation. A lot of its profits actually go towards charity and food banks and stuff like that. However, due to the coronation this year, a absolute ton of the National Lottery's funding was redirected, instead of going to food banks and charities and things like that, was directly redirected to pay for the coronation. And this is some of the most stupid... it hurts, honestly. As someone who actually really enjoys that aspect of the National Lottery, that it does support food banks and charities and various other, useful organisations, it's really frustrating to know that because of King Charles King Charles III, I'm going to make that mistake a few more times in this video, I'm pretty sure. Because of King Charles III, people are going to be going hungry for the next few weeks in certain areas that weren't able to actually get the funding they needed to run their food banks and get supplies for the food banks, or just run their charities as well. This is horrible for welfare. It is absolutely terrible for those that are impoverished. And this is coming from a king who has stated on many occasions how much he cares, truly cares, for the impoverished, for the poor people of this country, for those that are in desperate need of help and support. And yet, because of his fancy little coronation, these same people are going to be going hungry. And I just think the absolute irony of that is, well, you could cut it with a knife. Jeez, I really butchered that sentence. But yeah, honestly, it's so ridiculous to me. And the fact that the National Lottery kind of allowed that in the first place, because I'm pretty sure the National Lottery it is its own organisation, separate from, the government. It can, I'm pretty certain, kind of call its own shots. So the fact that they actually directed this funding towards the coronation instead of their usual charitable acts is kind of ridiculous to me. I was absolutely shocked when I actually saw this. It was actually a food bank itself, and I will have links to all the various things that I'll be using as sources in the description below. But it was actually a food bank itself that made me know about this. Street Kitchen on Twitter tweeted basically saying about how a bunch of funding got redirected for the coronation. And one thing that really annoys me, and we'll continue this with the next little topic thing that I'm going to be talking about, but King Charles III is estimated to be worth around £1.8 billion. £1.8 billion with a B. That is a ridiculous number of zeros right there. And that man is having the National Lottery pay for his little party. And sure, when it comes to tradition, the coronation is a very important thing. I personally don't care for it. I don't really care for the royals that much. I enjoyed the Queen and a lot of her antics, and, people like Harry that are royalty adjacent, I do still enjoy. I just don't care for the monarchy. It's not something that I've ever been that patriotic about. I'm not really that patriotic to begin with. I don't really love my country in any proper way. But at the end of the day, the National Lottery is a good thing. The Coronation is a useless, pointless, and redundant thing. So why was funding redirected, essentially? It's so ridiculous to me. And for someone worth so much money, why couldn't Charles just pay for his own coronation? It's absolutely ridiculous that he just doesn't pay for so much stuff when it costs an absolute fortune. We're talking millions of pounds redirected just so that a billionaire doesn't have to pay for a special crowning ceremony. It's absolutely ridiculous. And in the same sort of note, £8 million worth of King Charles portraits are being sent to public and government-run institutions. So for places like schools, fire departments, police stations, that sort of thing, are getting given, and I say given, but they are going to be receiving portraits of King Charles to display somewhere within their building. And, if this was just something that, was a bit of an ego trip, a bit of, vanity on the part of King Charles III, fair enough. But no, this is going to cost the taxpayer, not King Charles, the taxpayer, £8 million. Now, I don't need to kind of go over that any more than I think is obvious. £8 million of taxpayer money shouldn't be going towards making pictures of the king. It should be going towards welfare. It should be going towards charity. It should be going towards, the NHS. Something that is currently really underfunded and could have really done with that £8 million right now. It's insane to me how much money got redirected for the coronation for no real reason and coronation-related things. As I say, I'm not a royalist. I do not give a single damn about our monarchs. But I don't think even the people that are royalists would think that their taxpayer money going towards photos of the man is a good thing. It's so stupid, and I can't believe that I'm having to even discuss something like this. Like, the fact that that much money has been redirected in various ways is just insane to me. So, not only is all this national lottery money getting redirected, but also just taxpayer funds. It's absolutely insane. Like, imagine how many, how much that could help the NHS. Just imagine that alone. How much it could help funding fire stations getting upgraded gear. How much it could upgrade the libraries of various places across the country. And instead of doing that, instead of, paying teachers slightly more or giving some teachers a raise or something, no, we're just throwing money at a fire because we want to have pictures of the king. It's so stupid. And it's just, I can't believe it, honestly. When I read that, I was shocked. I was absolutely gobsmacked at that. It was such a stupid thing to read. And yeah, it's just, wasting money for the king. For a man worth £1.8 billion. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. And then moving on to a slightly, I'm not going to say less happy because, the poor getting poorer isn't exactly a happy topic, but on a more serious note, which I think is a little bit worrying for the state of the country, anti-monarchy protesters were arrested in London. And these weren't, people that could be considered domestic terrorists or anything. They were picketing. They had signage that was basically saying that, there shouldn't be a monarch or there shouldn't be coronation or various things like that. Typical anti-monarchy protesters. Completely peaceful, not doing anything, not even really in the way of people for once. Fortunately, protesters weren't actually in the way. God forbid. But the police not only arrested the dozen or so protesters, but confiscated all of their placards, their signage, and various other paraphernalia, let's say. That is not only ridiculous on its own, but it's really a threat to our rights in the UK. peaceful protest has been protected forever, essentially. It's something that, because of how our government is built, and just because of how our laws in modern day are built, you are able to complain about whatever you want within reason, as long as you are peaceful about it. You know, you're allowed to protest essentially anything that the government, the monarchy, or even like the church does. You're allowed, because it's free speech, and this country, as much as it is a surveillance state, does care a decent amount about you being able to talk and say exactly what you want, as I say, within reason, and only in certain forums. I do understand that the limitations of our rights are questionable, to say the least, but at the end of the day, protesting the monarchy shouldn't be something that you get arrested for. Unfortunately, as far as I'm aware, based on what I've read, none of the people that were arrested were actually sentenced with anything or even actually imprisoned. They were basically just taken away from where they'd, been picketing, and were just let free immediately with no actual recourse. And, at least that's something. At least they're not actually getting in any major trouble. This isn't going to look too bad on them. And that's really the silver lining of this situation. It really sets a bad precedent for the future. I really hope we don't see more stuff like this, where police are very much abusing their power, because it's a scary thought, to say the least. I really hope we don't see anything more like this in the near future, or just the future in general. I hope that peaceful protest remains protected, and police don't continue to just arrest protesters. It would be it would be a bit dystopian, to say the least, I would say. But moving on to the final thing I just wanted to talk about, and this is the lighthearted thing I mentioned at the start of the video. The Grim Reaper was spotted by Westminster Abbey. Yeah, you heard me right. The Grim Reaper was spotted right outside the building in which the coronation was occurring. It's not a joke. I'm sure, it's funny, don't get me wrong, but it's not a joke. Somebody, or potentially the real Grim Reaper, we don't actually know at this point, it's impossible to tell, but realistically, somebody dressed as the Grim Reaper in a black cloak holding what appears to be a scythe passed by the door of Westminster Abbey during the coronation. Or, more accurately, prior to the coronation actually truly beginning. But when there were plenty of people in Westminster Abbey and plenty of cameras to capture the fact that the Grim Reaper passed by the door, it was a surreal moment that I was able to catch almost live, within about 10 minutes via Twitter, and honestly, it was very funny to me. I really enjoyed seeing that, and honestly, it's the only highlight I needed to see of the coronation, because as I've said many a time in this video, I don't care. I really didn't care. I have refused to watch anything. I've read a few articles and kind of just stayed on the sidelines, laughing at the funny stuff and kind of getting away from all the more serious things other than what I've covered in this video. But yeah, that was a very fun moment, in my opinion. And beyond all the other wackiness and all the other memes and just, I said it in the start, but things like, the sausage fingers of King Charles and, the big ears, that has always been a thing, and, just the various holy relics, including, I believe there was actually supposedly a piece of the original Jesus Christ cross. I may be wrong there. I believe that was a thing that was provided by, the Vatican or something, just provided, a chunk of wood and, have said this is part of the actual cross that Jesus Christ was crucified on. Ridiculous stuff like that. Absolutely insane to me. And honestly, it almost sounds like, based off, and you can check the article, I believe it's from, I want to say it's The Guardian I have an article from. Either way, an article covering all the different various holy relics that were at the coronation. And it honestly sounds like an RPG loadout. It's absolutely ridiculous. The inventory of King Charles III is absolutely ridiculous in a lot of ways. But yeah, overall, this was a stupid time that I think was a complete waste of both time and money for the vast majority of people. I don't understand the people that were really hyped for it. Most people in my circles, personally, have been very, I guess, step off about it. A lot of people have spoke about it with me and, people are generally interested in seeing if there was anything fun that happened, which realistically everything that I've mentioned now is what was fun, but yeah, generally it was very much a thing that people that I know stay away from, and I think that's probably for the best. The monarchy is an outdated concept as it is. I personally don't think that King Charles will remain king for very long, either due to age or just due to choice, potentially stepping down as king in maybe 5, 10, maybe 15 years. I honestly hope that he does live a long and prosperous life, but he's already 70-something, so realistically he already has. But in any case, that is really everything I have to say about the monarchy and the coronation and King Charles III, God save the king and all that jazz. But in any case, thanks for watching. Like the video if you did like it, subscribe if you're new here, and ring the bell so you never miss upload. Otherwise, it's going to be up from me, and yeah, bye!
It's been a long week. I feel like I could use a vacation.